Welcome to Still Serving, the VFW podcast, the official podcast of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And now, from the VFW Memorial Building in Washington, D.C., here's your host, Rob Couture.
And welcome to Still Serving. I'm your host, Rob Couture. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a show. Let's go ahead and get into roll call right now. Next to me, Mike Figlioli. Say hello.
Hello.
Our Director of National Veteran Service. Right next to him, Kristina Keenan.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Kristina, Director of National Legislative Service. And then over to the very end is our Executive Director for the VFW Washington Office, Mr. Ryan Gallucci.
Hey, hey.
Hey, comrade. So I will go back to this because our good friend, Brittany Diamond Murray, the co-host of the show from afar, she wasn't able to make it. A little bit of a clep in the voice. Spelkin and the kleptozoink. So anyway, I don't even know if that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. That's an old reference. But I tell you what, we are bringing in a ringer for this particular show. She did not leave us without our own guest, the immediate past Director
Emeritus.
Director Emeritus, Mr. Pat Murray. Welcome back.
Hi guys, how we doing?
We're doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Living in Rhode Island is outstanding.
That's right. Well, we know that we bring you on today's show because you were once fired up about something. So we're going to go and get into that in a little bit. But are you fired up? I just want to know, are you fired up?
Always. On
a level of 9 to 10, how outraged are you?
Did I say 11?
Oh, he turned it up to 11.
Standard. So,
standard.
It's fun to, get the blood pressure going.
Yes.
Really get you moving. But it's great to be back chatting with you guys.
That's right. North Kingstown's finest on the show. So we're really happy to have you. So let's go over to Ryan Gallucci with our rundown for today. What do you got, Ryan?
All right. So first, Kristina in a couple of minutes is gonna share with you exactly why we're here covering these topics today. But this is going to be a very special Honor the Contract episode of the VFW podcast. You probably saw in the shot that we have the Honor the Contract t-shirts that we designed in partnership with Grunt Style. We have the Honor the Contract buttons right here. We have a panel of guests who are going to talk about something that happened in the Washington Post yesterday.
Oh, it sure did.
But we're going to talk about VA benefits, and we're going to talk about the dilemma that we're faced with now. We're going to talk about service connection. What is it? What does it mean? We're going to talk about social and occupational impairment, the human impact of VA benefits, service-connected disabilities, combat injuries versus the other occupational hazards of military service. We're going to talk about the forever war and the all-volunteer force that's prosecuted it, talk about new science and better knowledge among veterans and veterans advocates. We're going to talk about bad policy, driving bad behavior. And we're finally going to talk about everybody's favorite subject here. What is fraud and what do claim sharks have to do with it? And then, of course, if we have time, we'll go to our good of the order.
Our go-to, if you will. So that's a lot of subjects, Ryan. What made... you were like, I remember when you sent the email, like, here are the topics. And I was like... okay, so this is going to be 2 hours long.
No, we're going to try to get through this because really, Kristina, why don't you tell us what happened yesterday and why we want to talk about all of these things that we will hopefully get through.
Yeah. So yesterday morning at 5 a.m., Washington Post.
Yesterday morning being October 6th.
Monday,
October 6th, if anyone comes across the article. Washington Post published an article entitled "How Some Veterans Exploit $193 Billion VA Program Due to Lax Controls." Long article, incredibly misleading, lots of holes in their arguments, and it directly attacks veterans and their disability benefits. And so it's stirred up a lot of conversation in the veteran community, with veteran organizations, particularly here in DC, and has sort of prompted us to have this laundry list of items to kind of go through. One, to kind of debunk some of the claims, and to get the record straight. Some of the data is accurate, but the way it's portrayed is completely inaccurate and really paints a negative picture of veterans and why we might have benefits.
Right.
So we have a pre-Thanksgiving turkey dump again this year?
I don't know what pre-holiday. Yeah.
Now, you know what I think? It's very fitting there, Washington Post, that you would post it the day before the anniversary of the start of our invasion into Afghanistan. That war that took us for 20 years to fight and produce so many of us that would go back and back again and back again. And you would put it behind a paywall so the average veteran, probably who doesn't subscribe to the Washington Post, could be like, not worth my time.
Doesn't like clickbait.
Yeah, nothing like clickbait.
There's some more background here, too. So, Pat last year in Task and Purpose, on Thanksgiving Day, The Economist published that veterans' benefits were absurdly generous. Pat responded in kind in Task and Purpose, which I'm sure you'll get to here in a minute.
It wasn't very kind.
Yes, it wasn't very kind at all. But also, this isn't the first time that the Washington Post has taken a shot at veterans' benefits. As a matter of fact, after The Economist, after the Washington Post editorial board, after the Congressional Budget Office talked about cutting veterans benefit programs, that's when our esteemed legislative director, Kristina Keenan, coined honor the contract.
Yes.
What's disappointing about this Washington Post article, though, is each of these bullet points that we have on here, some of these were addressed in there through very bad faith arguments or even old tropes that, quite frankly, the VFW's seen before.
That's right.
Honor the contract. That image that's on the Grunt Style t-shirt is from the 1930s when the VFW was talking about the Economy Act that actually did cut veterans benefits. But then, Rob, you were going through our archive yesterday.
Yes.
And found something from 1956.
Oh, yes.
Called the Bradley Commission.
Uh-oh.
Where there's a firing squad.
Let's get over there to Ryan. Let's get a little. There we go.
You might be seeing this a little bit later on social media today, where the Bradley Commission actually came up with some of the recommendations that we saw from CBO and that we saw the Washington Post regurgitate about how veterans don't deserve service-connected disability payments 30% or below. So just really. Look, these bad faith arguments have been around since the 1930s, and it seems like every time a war sunsets, you get a few years removed from it. Think about that, 1933, that's post-World War I.
Right.
The Great Depression, 1956, post-World War II.
Yep.
And Americans are just like, ow, that was really expensive.
Well, yeah, it was just actually also 3 years after Korea.
Yep.
So this had happened. Let's see. It was like we had gone into it, and it was like the Hoover Commission first. That's why in that particular cartoon it says the Hoover Commission, and then it says the Bradley Commission because they were hitting on a lot of the same things. But it was like just so happens to be like just a few years removed from when the war ended, and then they're automatically calling for them to cut benefits. It's amazing how that is. Hence why we came up with this particular graphic, which you see on our screen, or if you're watching and you see it. We offer this. We went in with Grunt Style to put these shirts together because they're like valued organization as us. And that cartoon comes from the 1930s. So, you know what? Thanks a lot there, Washington Post. Time for some more merchandise.
Yeah, but think about what you just said, right? Post-war, let's make some cuts. Generally by people that haven't served.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, we actually discovered today that Herbert Hoover didn't serve. I'm sorry. I should be a little bit more on my presidential history and biographies, but he didn't serve.
And it's out of sight, out of mind, right?
That's right.
It doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
So therefore, well, Deb, we'll just take that away because I don't feel that you earned it. I'm going to bet that the people that have catastrophic injuries would disagree, and people that have gone through some serious mental health issues would also disagree that this deserves to be removed.
Well, and the other thing too with this is that that's that was Herbert Hoover's administration, which really that was the Economy Act when that was really getting going during that time, and we had to fight against that. And then he then transitioned into the Hoover Commission. But then now we're talking about the Bradley Commission in 1956. And what's interesting is when we say that the Bradley Commission, we're talking about General Omar Bradley. So why is that interesting? Because it seems to me that whenever those out there with deep pockets that want to cut back on veterans benefits because we're an easy scapegoat to go after, they say, what celebrity general or admiral that's around here can we grab and be the champion for doing what's right and tightening our belt and really giving those taxpayer dollars back to the American people? And that's what they do. It seems like they did that too because
it happened with the Economy Act.
It happened with the Economy Act.
Let's find a prominent veteran. Let's find the son of the Rough Rider himself, Teddy Roosevelt, to be our champion. Because if it's a prominent veteran, veterans will listen to that prominent veteran.
That's right. It's crazy.
I mean, the article itself says very little about the 20 years of conflict that today's veterans have gone through, and for many, multiple deployments, toxic exposures, combat experience, mental health trauma. So it's no wonder that we've advocated for laws to change, that VA has been on board in helping veterans understand their benefits, get their benefits. There's a lot of negativity around the benefits without the backstory of 20 years of conflict. It's just the elephant in the room that they're not really addressing in this article.
Yeah.
And if you ignore that, it does seem like, oh yes, there's been a huge increase in benefits, and we have more veterans with injuries that need to be taken care of. And once we pass laws that addressed some of those very serious cancers and respiratory conditions, I mean, people are sick and need those benefits.
Yeah.
So Kristina, are you saying that 25 years of sending the same people over and over into a toxic meat grinder has somehow exacerbated service-connected conditions?
It's shocking, really.
Wow.
But isn't that logical? And why that is conveniently
Brian,
left out of the
the
argument.
Economist used that same lazy 2001 backstop to compare all their numbers to, but intentionally failed to mention why 2001, since 2001 is an important distinction when they say that things have increased since 2001. Then they end their sentence. That added context of, well, that's when we went into a 20-plus year war. Not adding that is disingenuous, it's lazy. That's bad journalism. That's intentionally misleading. That's trying to prove a point by hiding the ball. I think that's the folks at Washington Post did the exact same thing that they did a couple years before that and what the Economist did the year before.
It seems like a steady drumbeat. There's a couple other bad faith arguments in there when you talk about emerging science and knowledge. So they put these fancy charts in that talk about, there's been this increase in veterans benefits. And wow, how could that be? Well, not only is it the same group of people taking advantage of, but first of all, science has advanced.
Yeah.
Science has advanced. We know more. The PACT Act that you and Pat were on the steps of the Capitol advocating for is still cleaning up nuclear testing issues and Agent Orange issues. That's in the PACT Act already.
Yeah.
And then the toxic exposures in Iraq, Afghanistan, other places around the world. We still haven't addressed Kachi-Karabad, K2. But, I see it as another bad faith argument when you talk about, now veterans are filing for everything. Well, look, my grandfather fought in World War II. And my dad would tell me that he was a terrible father because he isolated and he drank and smoked himself to an early death in his late 60s.
Yeah.
Now, we've heard it called shell shock, soldier's heart, all of these other
Battle
things.
fatigue.
PTSD has existed always. We didn't diagnose it until the 1980s. You look at these cancers. Agent Orange presumptives are still expanding. And they, again, make the bad, hypertension happens in older people. Yeah, but not at the rates that we're seeing.
Right.
They even attacked GI conditions in here, gastrointestinal conditions. It's like, look, there's a reason. I'm going to get very candid about our office. We have baby wipes in every bathroom here. There's a reason. There's a very specific reason, because we're affected unlike any other parts of the population. And look, the other one, there's a lot of talk. Oh, I'm just going to say this one too. Oh, well, autism's on the rise in the U.S. Well, yeah, because we know what it is and we're trying to destigmatize it. We can diagnose it. We know that it's a real thing. We're not hiding from it anymore. And honestly, veterans have done the same thing with mental health. Veterans have been champions of change on destigmatizing mental health in the United States. We talk about it. We talk about it candidly. I think most of us have talked about it on this podcast. Yeah, because we can talk about it, we're not hiding from it anymore. And it does affect our lives. I know I'm kind of all over the place. I know we're going to talk about social and occupational impairment, but I needed to get some of that out there.
Well, I think it's really important. I mean, it takes courage to talk about some of these things. You know, when we talk about mental health, you know, who comes to mind was one of the first real advocates for mental health within the veteran community. And that was Audie Murphy, who was the most decorated service member, soldier in World War II. Right, exactly. And he suffered badly. He had slept with a pistol underneath his pillow. You know, he had wild alcoholism and problems like that, and he ended up dying in a plane crash. But before he died, he would speak openly about post-traumatic stress disorder. And there goes my tonight.
Well, to your point,
another one, my ear just went.
I hate when that happens. And to Ryan's point, you know, having grown up in this organization, and you talk about rampant alcoholism, I can still see the pictures of these veterans in my faces when I was a kid. That's what you thought they were. You just thought they were alcoholics that drank a lot. Didn't know the root cause of why they drank, right? Too young, hadn't served yet. Didn't have 20 years of continuous war or continuous deployments. But then realized that some of these guys who never opened their mouth and just drank too much were at battles of the Bulge and some of the most incredible battles I've ever seen. D-Day. Yeah. I learned a good friend of the family at the time of his death. He never said much at the house, and I'd see him on occasion at the post. But after he passed away, I learned he had 4 Purple Hearts he never talked about.
Wow.
Maybe you think that might be why he conducted himself the way he did, because he never verbalized his experience. So you got to commend this generation, your generation, for making mental health an issue and something to not be ashamed of, and something deserving of treatment by the Veterans Administration and compensation for other reasons, meaning occupational impairment.
So I want to get to one of the issues that's on here to just kind of set a baseline for our listeners and our viewers. There's a lot of talk in this article and a lot of bullshit out there, frankly, about, you know, well, oh, you can fake it, you can do this, you can do that. But Mike, you're the expert here. You're our national service director. You train this to our accredited reps. What are the 3 things that need to be established as fact for VA to service-connected disability?
You have to have an injury or illness.
A current diagnosis, right?
Current diagnosis, and a nexus between the two. Meaning, if you had an injury or illness occurring while you were on active duty or you were on orders, and then you have evidence that shows it occurred during service, and then a medical opinion that says your service caused that injury or illness, you've met the 3 requirements for service connection. It's very simple. Outside of that, you're missing one of those 3 things, it's not service connectable.
And this is, I think I found this kind of really off-putting about not just this article, but then this whole dialogue on veterans benefits and this notion that you can get things you can't deserve. So can, you know, if you're filing a claim, can I write a medical opinion that you have a condition?
If you have knowledge of it in some way, you can write a lay statement and say that I suffer from X, Y, and Z. You've observed it.
But can I diagnose you?
No, unless you're a medical qualified professional, you cannot.
I'm not a doctor. So a doctor needs to diagnose you.
Yes.
All right.
Pretty simple, huh?
Yeah. You know, so once you have that diagnosis, it's a medical fact.
Correct.
You can't really fake a diagnosis.
You are correct.
All right.
All right. Well, it seems like that's a scam. No, I'm just kidding. Right? Isn't that what the magazine said?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, veterans are scamming.
But that's why I wanted to ask that, because, you know, there's so much about, well, is it really this? Is it really that? Well, look, it's really those 3 simple principles: a current diagnosis of a chronic medical condition, an incident or an incident or documentation of in-service event, and then a medical nexus linking the two. A veteran can't concoct that except in fraudulent situations, which we'll talk about later. Because there is fraud that veterans need to know about. But if you're talking about veterans who are filing for benefits now and getting those grants, they have to establish those three things. Period.
Right.
There's no two ways about it. Mm-hmm. Now, to shift gears, the article then talks about, well, veterans who make a lot of money maybe shouldn't be paid.
Okay.
They talk about, they entertain the option of means testing.
And what do we mean by means testing?
So means testing, basically, veterans right now who receive a service-connected disability, regardless of whether they're employed, unemployed, underemployed, overemployed, you're entitled to that compensation for a service-connected disability, period. The Washington Post, along with the Congressional Budget Office, and as we found in our magazine archives, the Bradley Commission, recommended restricting who gets monetary payments and restricting those monetary payments based on your occupational success. Anybody on the panel want to tell me what we actually compensate for when it comes to service-connected disabilities?
Oh, well, what about we go over to Pat Murray to see what he thinks we get compensated for?
So for those that don't know, I have a prosthetic leg. I got my right leg blown to pieces September 4, 2006, Fallujah, Iraq. So I walk around with a prosthetic every day. I have a wheelchair. There are many things that cost a little bit more money when you don't have the same mobility as our two-legged brothers and sisters have. There are things that start to add up. The disability compensation is supposed to compensate me for some of those added expenses due to my disability. It could be, loss of the same type of employment, but also it is to make up for, those out-of-pocket expenses that I have to incur. There are some things that, and not to nickel and dime it, but the car that I drive has to be a little bit different. The way my prosthetic works is a right prosthetic, so I can't use my right foot for the gas pedal. I need to use my left foot, or I could use hand controls. Either way, putting that in a vehicle costs additional money. But to get a vehicle that I'm comfortable with, I need to be sitting more upright without your feet kind of out in front of you like a sedan. Taller, bigger trucks cost more money, right? So like things like that, having to get a generally more expensive car because an SUV or a truck is more expensive than a Toyota Corolla or something like that. I can't walk more than half a mile without really starting to get out of breath and starting to sweat. So when I used to work with you guys on Capitol Hill, walking to meetings, that meant taking an Uber. Some of them might be 3/4 of a mile or a mile. In places like that, that's like $25. So that's $50 round trip. And that was 3-4 times a week. You start to add those up, that costs additional money. On top of that, my clothes. I don't have a single pair of pants, shorts, underwear that doesn't have holes in it from my prosthetic. It'll even rip through jeans. Jeans are a pretty tough material, but they'll eventually work their way through that. So nicer pants, suit pants are not cheap. I do get some compensation from VA for a clothing allowance, but it's like $700-800 annually, which is helpful. But when you start talking about ripping through every pair of pants or shorts you own, that exceeds $700-800. So the point of disability compensation is to try to make me about as whole as it can be because I'm not getting my leg back. So, the folks in the Washington Post, the folks in the Economist, anybody who wants to talk about means testing, because I was, happily, gainfully employed with the VFW, I was making good money, but there were still a ton of out-of-pocket costs that my disability, put on me and my family. So, for anybody that wants to talk about means testing, I invite them to come have a sit-down conversation with someone like me and let me explain why some of these things are important to myself and the other veterans that are in similar situations.
Wow. But I do have one solution. You probably get one of those Japanese left drive cars, where everything's on the opposite side and you're sitting up. I don't know.
I tried to buy a Toyota Hilux, man. Those things are tough to find.
Yeah. Well, that goes to show you how difficult. What'd you say? Go ahead.
It's not impossible, but very tough.
Very tough to get those Hiluxes.
Part of the other side of that is, based on your injury or illness, you may not be able to return to the same occupational field that you had prior.
Yeah, Pat, what did you want to be before you deployed?
Funny story, Mike. I had a employment offer from the town of North Kingstown to be a firefighter before I went on deployment to Iraq. And so I guess it was 2005 beforehand. I returned minus one leg. I can't be a firefighter. I mean, I could have possibly, still been on the job, worked in the dispatch office or something like that in the administrative part of it, but I could not carry someone up and down a ladder, right? If God forbid someone were, their life needed saving, the men and women of the fire department do fantastic work. I'd be mad if someone like me walked in there or limped in there and told them like, you're gonna have to get yourself out of the house. I can't carry you. So there are things like that. I could not return to the job that I wanted since I was, a little kid. I had that opportunity, but I couldn't take advantage of it any longer.
And you wouldn't be compensated in the same manner as a firefighter as opposed to a dispatcher, correct?
Correct.
Therefore, VA compensation is meant to bridge the gap for lost wages due to injury or illness. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
Thank you. I had a lot of that yesterday. I can't get it out of my system.
Well, this touches on another topic of it. We're the social impact. It's not just occupational impairment. It's social impairment. It's things like what you can or can't do with your kids. It's really the human impact. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get a little vulnerable as well. During COVID-19, had some struggles. Had mental health challenges since I came back from Iraq in 2004. Pat found me on the floor having a panic attack one day, and my daughter rubbing my back. My kids are not okay. And there are out-of-pocket costs that come with that. There's a human toll. There's a human impact. And Pat, you would talk about the human impact as well of losing a limb and what that means moving forward.
So I mean, there are things that my son is, as we talked about. I'm in Rhode Island, new father, trying to raise our son around family. I'm not going to be able to teach him to ride a bike. I can't physically ride a bike the same way that, other normal people can. So I'm going to have to sit and watch that as my wife teaches him how to ride a bike. I'm not going to get a chance to do that. So I don't know what dollar amount you would assign to that, but that kind of sucks. There were things this year. I couldn't go in the water. Rhode Island is, the ocean state, famously some of the best beaches in America. I'll plant my flag on that one. But, I had our family down, a bunch of cousins that I haven't seen in a long time. Our son, we took him in the water for the first time. I had to sit on the grass like a jackass because I don't have a water leg. My leg has a computer processing chip in it. I can't take that in the water. Again, I learned the hard way. It'll fly.
Yeah, I was going to
say. And then you are days without a functioning prosthetic. So I had to sit on the grass and watch everybody else enjoy taking our son in the water. That's not fun. So again, I don't know what dollar amount you can assign to that, but those aren't things that I'm getting back. Some of those like core memories. So, if somebody wants to means test or find a way to means test losing valuable core memory building things with your family, I encourage them to put some pen to paper and figure out how we can do that, how to compensate me for that loss of some of those memories.
Yeah.
And that broader human impact, the Washington Post says this is going to be a series. I wonder if they're ever going to delve into that. Probably not, based on the other things they've published to this point. But, we talk about occupational impairment and things like that. The Military Transition Assistance Program focused on veteran unemployment. And good news, let's get the mission accomplished banner up there. We solved that. Veteran unemployment is persistently lower than non-veteran unemployment. But what about the social aspects of it? What about suicide? Mm-hmm. What about isolation? What about divorce rates or incarceration, involvement with law enforcement? I think that has a lot to do with the social impairment. And what kind of message are we looking to send to veterans that, those of us here at the Washington Post and the Economist, it seems expensive. I don't know why we need to do that.
I think some people have lost have forgotten that there is a cost to war.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lingering cost that continues well after we bring troops home. And to forget that is a disservice. And I think it also impacts how young people today are looking at service in the military.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of articles really, I think they have the potential of impacting recruitment for the military today. How are we going to have a strong military if we're pulling back benefits for veterans?
Right.
What does that tell a young person about how we're going to take care of them if they do get injured, if they do have conditions? So it's such a negative message. And I think for all of us who served, have a lot of pride in our service. And this just takes away so much of that, what the service really means.
Yeah.
And how we should, as a country, value that service.
I mean, it's important for people to understand, like, all right, so they announced the other day, last week actually, that they're going to be continuing to draw down in Iraq after Inherent Resolve, right? 2014, finally drawing down from those operations there. So people might have a false sense of comfort that, okay, well, we're not in a major war anymore. But we know, each one of us know, that anything could pop off. Like, okay, so it goes back to the way it was when I enlisted in the military in 96, right? And the place that was the hot spot to go to was either Kuwait, as we were doing Southern Watch and kind of doing this perimeter checks on Saddam Hussein, and then the DMZ up in Korea, right? And anybody that served up in Korea, especially during those times, we always had to be prepared to go fight tonight, right?
I was there.
Right. So, I mean, like even me, AFN, right? AFKN, we had to do like exercises where we're managing the hill and doing all these things where we're guarding checkpoints, and then we had to draw down because we're getting ready for war. And then, you know what? It may not happen in that country, but if you serve within six years, possibly, which is a normal enlistment, there's a good chance you're going to see something. A very good chance, or you're going to be deployed somewhere in a peacekeeping mission. And so, there are a contingency operation. When you're expeditionary in nature, there are going to be bumps and bruises. It's a contact sport.
Well, that's what, again, to talk about the genesis of Honor the Contract, when past Commander-in-Chief Al Lippert testified before the joint House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees last year, he held up DD Form 4, which is the standard enlistment contract. And in that, the clause that we're really talking about when we say honor the contract is that veterans will be entitled to pay and benefits in accordance with what's been provided by Congress. Earlier in that contract, though, there are other clauses to include the agreement to deploy to combat and other hazardous situations. I want to talk about that other hazardous situations here real quick, because there seems to be a focus in this story, too, on combat injuries. And you saw it historically. The Bradley Commission talked about it. Well, we should sunset tropical diseases and presumptives. And the Washington Post just regurgitating talking points from 1956.
Yeah.
Quick show of hands. When we joined the military knew that it could be dangerous? Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that military service is dangerous.
Right.
That doesn't just include combat. Service-connected disabilities aren't just combat. No. What are we... where are we going with this?
Military service... We went through this with the PACT Act. Military service is inherently hazardous, dangerous, toxic. Veterans, anyone who served, has higher rates of... has higher risks of all kinds of injuries and illnesses simply by being in the military and the exposures that they're receiving.
That's why it's service.
Combat or not.
But we know that now because the year Rob joined is the year I got out. Right? And all of the things that have been identified or mentioned as possibly carcinogenic or hazardous comes from experience and research.
Yeah.
And to the benefit, they're identifying more and more issues which need to be treated or compensated. Look, folks, let me lay it out very simply for the Washington Post and the Economist and everybody else. There are two things that get better with age: wine and cheese. Pat's leg is not going to grow back. Somebody's respiratory issue is likely not going to improve. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not covered. You've got to think downstream.
Yeah.
And if you say that if we stop making this the main focus of the VA and we stop paying people right now, well, Pat, you go back to the VA and get the rest of your leg. We'll be glad to give it back to you. And, the monetary value just fixes all these issues, and then it just goes away once these things are decided.
Along
don't
with
get better.
Or countless veterans would gladly forfeit whatever, amount of money that comes from VA to just be able to just spring out of bed and, go be able to go about your day as if nothing's wrong because your body is 100%, happy and healthy and just ready to roll. That's not the case.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier,
I would
your leg.
give back every dollar for that ability to do that.
Yeah, you mentioned your leg, but you mentioned a couple of other things that are a result of your injury to your leg that people don't realize.
Yeah.
Circulatory issues. All these other things that are secondary to these initial disabilities or illnesses.
And that's what this article really missed, that, by highlighting many of these secondary conditions and kind of painting them as if like there are some primary thing is bullshit. And, some of these things that, to talk about, again, myself, but, because my right leg is one way, my gait is entirely off. So that means that my, quote unquote, good leg is about to get beat up because I'm now weight sharing probably 75% of my weight on one leg as opposed to 50-50, the way that, our bodies are supposed to. So that means that my left leg is degraded. It's not nearly the same as it should be, faster than normal. So those are things like that, the secondary conditions. I mean, they even mentioned some things in there that, they harped on sleep apnea. That seems to be one that often gets used as a punching bag, but they called rhinitis hay fever. I got it. I wake up every morning, my nose is just running straight out of bed. I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, I've got to blow my nose. It's not hay fever. That's from being downwind of piles of shit being burned 24/7, walking around those, pretty nasty places we got deployed to. It's not hay fever, but calling it that is disingenuous. It's making people think it's just minor allergies. Kiss my ass, Lisa Rain, Caitlin Gilbert, and Craig Whitlock. You losers.
Well, hand up. I mean, I got a call a couple of weeks ago from the Washington Post to talk about VA's pending revisions to the VA schedule of rating disabilities.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Their phones still work over there? I thought the failing Washington Post was struggling to keep the lights on.
Anyway,
dropped 250,000 subscribers.
Oh.
When I answered the phone and we were talking through some of these things, we were talking about mental health and we were talking about mental health, we were talking about sleep apnea, and the change to tinnitus. The VFW commented on these a few years ago. And the one I kept asking questions about, sleep apnea and this, well, isn't it solved by a CPAP? Isn't it this? Isn't it that? And I had to push back. It's like, look, no, a CPAP is a prosthetic device.
Right.
100%.
A CPAP is a prosthetic device. It doesn't cure sleep apnea.
Right.
Just because you can use a device to assist you in doing something doesn't mean that it's cured. I have contact lenses.
Means it's, quote, Ryan, fixed while that device is working. If the batteries go out, if, for example, the CPAP machines that faced an industry-wide recall a couple
for causing cancer,
carcinogenic products in it.
Wow.
So suddenly that sleep apnea device doesn't fix it.
So I guess you wouldn't
Because
be
it
entitled to
doesn't work.
compensation for a cancer CPAP machine that doesn't kill you. The cancer will.
Yeah.
And without the device, if you can't sleep, you can't work. You probably can't drive. It's probably not safe to drive. I mean, there's so many things that if that doesn't work regularly every single day, your life is incredibly impaired.
Downstream effects.
That's
right. The same thing with routine medications.
Yes.
I mean, there are things that if you miss a dose, look, we're talking about overprescribing in partnership with Grunt Style. If you miss a dose of those drugs, it can be very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
That's a problem. No, but you're on medicine. You're totally fine. We should, cut off your compensation. That'll help. And also, it's never helped. It's never helped to cut off compensation. In the 1930s, we were writing about it, highlighting families who were losing their homes or veterans who were taking their own lives because their benefits were cut. Are we just going to ignore the human impact?
Mm.
So,
all right. Yeah. Pause for effect. All right, so where are we on this list, Ryan?
I know, really. We're actually doing okay. I've been keeping tabs here.
Yeah,
We've
we're down to the volunteer force.
Yeah, we talked about honor the contract. We talked about.
Oh, I love that you're doing that. Look at this.
Social and occupational impairment, human impact, combat versus other occupational hazards, forever war. We even touched on.
Yeah, we did.
New science and knowledge. Unless someone wants to spike the ball on that, but before we get into bad policy and where there actually is some fraud and bad behavior in the system, I just want to leave it here. I am curious where the Washington Post is going to go with this next. Because, I mean, are you going to come after VSOs because we advocated for expanding benefits? I mean,
I won't be able to afford the subscriptions. They're going to cut my benefits behind the paywall.
Right.
Ryan, I am waiting bated breath for those three to really go after some real fraud, waste, and abuse.
Oh, yeah.
Namely their boss, Jeff Bezos, who pays next to nothing in taxes. If you look at his income, what is it, $250, $300 billion? And that's a lot of money that the federal government could be recouping if people like that paid their fair share. But I'm sure those three intrepid reporters are going to get right to the bottom of that.
They're asking.
Wait, hold on. Wait, I checked. None of them have said anything about it. So I'm not really sure that they're interested in getting to the bottom of it. Looks like they're just looking to punch down on disabled veterans.
Hey, look, I mean, that's
journalism.
just like what happened with the National Economy League in the 1930s. You know, it was a bunch of prominent defense contractors who were getting, at the time, tens of thousands of dollars in government contracts, who were trying to cut dozens and hundreds of dollars from individual disabled veterans to, quote unquote, balance the budget. You know, they can get theirs. But God forbid the veterans receive the benefits that they earned by fulfilling their side of the contract.
You mean by honoring the contract?
By honoring the contract.
That's right.
You're right. I mean, look, Pat, punching down. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what this is. You know, you needed veterans to prosecute the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. You continue to need veterans to protect our shipping lanes, to protect our borders, to protect our skies. You know, okay. When we joined, we accepted those hazards.
Right.
But you know what? I'm feeling like a nice guy. I'm going to give a bone to the Washington Post and say, you know what? There are some bad habits that developed. Let's talk about bad policy and how that's driven some bad habits among veteran benefits access.
Okay. So where do we start?
I mean, the thing about this article and some of their terrible bad faith arguments is they reinforce some policy things that we've talked about for quite a while. Mm-hmm. There is benefit inequity within the VA benefit structure right now.
Right.
Veterans who are 100% service-connected disabled are the only ones who are entitled to any kind of health care for their families. Many states offer property tax discounts only for veterans who are 100% service-connected disabled.
That's true.
Veterans who retire. We'll talk about this affects the Major Richard Starr Act. Veterans who retire at 20 years have to have a magic 50% or higher to get both their retirement and their disability pay. And, you know, Congress fights us all the time on reforming these policies. So if you're, and look, Mike, you and I have seen it. There are veterans out there who chase a rating that they probably don't deserve.
Yeah, I think I don't see it as much in this capacity as the National Service Director because I don't necessarily do that particular work anymore. But was it my experience that somebody would come in for a claim and the first thing they'd say is, I got sleep apnea, so I've got my 50%. I'm good to go. Okay. And then what else do we get? What do you think that's going to be? Oh, I can't tell you. Then their rating comes back and they're 90. And then, well, you know, I want to be 100. Well, okay, let's take a look. Is there something else to file for? Mm-hmm. But that drives everybody looking strictly for that baseline 50. Mm-hmm. So others, baseline 70 for other benefits that are available. So is it equitable that you get 50% for sleep apnea and then a lesser rating for a more catastrophic injury? We know that things need to be reformed, and we understand that that's happening right now. But then it's also going to be our job to review that and make sure it's still beneficial to the veteran. That's our job as an advocate, to make sure that the veteran gets the maximum allowable benefit by law. And to quote a former executive director in this building, if it's the law of the land, that's what we're going to prosecute, and that's what we're going to adhere to.
Right. And it does.
Mike, you mentioned the sleep apnea, which was brought up in the article, and they compared it to some folks that lose a limb that receive less compensation. But the article kind of left it as that as if the sleep apnea folks are getting too much. Why don't we talk about maybe increasing the loss of a limb?
Correct.
Compensation?
And then comes that Vassar D review, right? But we have to make sure that does that.
Or greater. And, again, the sleep apnea, it's often looked at, you're tired. I mean, people can actually die from that.
Yes.
It can be something that can be fatal. So it is a serious thing, but to minimize it and to compare it against the loss of a limb, well, then let's increase the loss of a limb compensation.
Yeah,
right.
Agreed.
And obviously I'm a little biased on that one.
Sure,
but,
sure.
It does.
Why are we talking about these two conditions that aren't anywhere near the same and saying that one is greater than the other? And in that comparison, well, then boost the other one up and others that maybe people think are lesser than.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly.
And it's always take everyone down a peg. The drained pool policy suggestions that these lazy journalists, it's pathetic.
The VFW has weighed in on some of those proposed rating adjustments, and it's not like we oppose them all. We've supported some of those changes because they were logical. We felt that they were beneficial for veterans, and then some we weighed in on that never were actually changed. So it's okay to review those, look for where their changes need to be made, because these things evolve over time, and we see the severity and the impact of some of these conditions over time.
Well, I think it's important too to go back to the original open of the podcast.
Yeah.
We don't support every bill that comes out just because it mentions veteran, right? Well, your team does their due diligence and reviews it, and we discuss it. And if it makes sense, then it could be. But we have opposed bills before that may have led to changes.
Right.
We just don't jump at the first thing that comes out. So I think also the nature of this article is anything that says veteran, anything that's veteran-centric, and a law that's been drafted and proposed, we immediately are in favor of. And that's just not true.
Correct.
Well, but let's talk about the whole premise of the article, too. Because they right in the headline, they say some veterans, fraud, they use the F word, fraud. And we've seen fraud. The Inspector General has seen fraud. The Inspector General has issued fraud warnings. Mike, what's fraud when it comes to veteran benefit claims?
Let's keep it simple. You're applying for a benefit that you likely didn't earn and could also be submitting falsified documentation and evidence to support that negligent claim.
Now, Kristina, Pat, has the VFW been vocal about people perpetuating fraud in the VA benefit space?
I mean, I feel like we've been the most vocal, and we don't even charge veterans. We make zero money off of helping veterans get their benefits, and yet there are folks who are unaccredited that take payments from veterans to access their benefits.
What do we call them?
We call them claim sharks, and we're not ashamed to do that because these are earned benefits. No one should be charged for accessing their disability benefits. The fraud can often come from, as Mike mentioned, documentation that is inaccurate. Using doctors that are connected to the consultants and the companies so that they're not so that they have a bias there. They have an incentive because they're going to make money off of this veteran's claim. And then if the veteran is claiming something that is not accurate, I mean, they are on the hook for committing fraud. They submit the claim under their own name. and so they're actually putting themselves at risk.
But when we do it,
using some of these,
it says VFW on that paperwork. We're held accountable.
And Mike, I'll say, when I was in your position as the Veteran Service Director, that was a point of contention. That when veterans' complaints reached me, it was many times because they were seeking a benefit they didn't deserve.
Correct.
And we weren't going to help them commit fraud. But, we had a press conference outside this building like 2 years ago where we held up the fraud alerts from the VA Inspector General talking about these farms that will basically write any medical opinion you want them to write for whatever they're willing to charge you. Again, it's part of the Claim Shark scheme. And there's a lawsuit right now in North Carolina, Leslie Carico, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but v. Veterans Guardian. And it was filed in September 2024. Veteran Guardian moved to dismiss it. The judge said no.
Oh.
And if you read through this case, which will be up on our social media as well, you'll see they were perpetuating capital F fraud. If the courts agree, based on the evidence that's been provided, yes, that they are alleged to have been committing capital F fraud, writing fake medical opinions, submitting for claimed conditions that the veteran didn't want to submit. These are things that we've heard about. These are things that we tried to call attention to. Kristina, you got kicked out of the press club because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I yelled, "That's fraud," when they were talking about using a company talked about using their own doctors to weigh in on claims.
So you were exercising your First Amendment right?
Yeah, at the press club. How ironic.
Is it the same thing that the claim sharks say?
I mean, that's exactly right. But it was, for people that don't know, this was a couple years back now, and it was a presentation that was there talking about veteran benefits, and they just so happened that the people that were on the panel had invited a notorious claim shark, and we were like, oh, okay, you know what? We're gonna not be quiet. We're not gonna not go because there's claim sharks there in the room. We're actually gonna go, and we're gonna be another voice that's in that room.
We're gonna exercise our First Amendment.
That's
rights.
right.
Yeah,
that's right.
At the press club.
And to paint this picture that they're helping veterans. Yeah, I mean, me and others, we're not allowed to ask questions. We're not allowed to participate.
Yeah.
And so we just yelled out, "That's fraud! Like, you're not helping. That you're committing fraud."
Yeah.
And we're asked to leave. We're asked to leave.
Yeah. Well, I think this is important because it goes back to what our forefathers in the VFW used to do. And that is, if you're a veteran, you got to get mad. You got to get mad about some of these things, and you got to be vocal about it. Use those tools which are available to you, afforded to you by the Constitution, that you can go out there and speak truth to some of these things. And you have to. And you know what?
Quoting Smedley Butler.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and to that point, we're like, you know what? We can continue to, and we will continue to walk the halls of Congress across the street over here to say, hey, you guys need to pass these claim sharks bills, anti-claim sharks bills. And then it got to the point where we're like, you know what? We have power in the states as well. And so that's why I want to bring in Pat here, because Pat, a lot of hard work that you did in your home state of Rhode Island came to fruition just this past week. In fact, it was on Friday and you were there for it. So could you tell us a little bit about what went on there?
Sure. So first off, I just want to just clarify. I mean, I helped out. This was a complete team effort. This was led by a VFW member in Rhode Island, Matt McCoy. He's a member of the VFW's National Legislative Committee. He's a member of my Post 152. He did a ton of the heavy work to get the claim shark bill in Rhode Island across the finish line. I was fortunate enough to attend the bill signing with the governor and the two primary sponsors, Senator Walter Felag and Representative Sam Azanero, that says that, I believe the implementation date was 6 months from the signing, something like that. But in 6 months, it will be illegal for those claim sharks to charge fees in Rhode Island. And I believe we're either the 13th or 14th state in the union to do so. Mm-hmm. Things like that are, where the VFW makes their money, right? We figuratively, not literally, we don't actually make our money, as Mike said, but we have people all around the country that are passionate for this, that want to get involved, that want to continue still serving in in their own way. And we showed that we can defeat some of these claim sharks in the states because they haven't gotten their hooks into the state legislators yet, the same way they have in Washington, D.C. They've donated hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to federal legislators to basically make the solution here a stalemate. But in the states, they haven't. So we have been successful in eliminating claim sharks in over a dozen states. We are going to continue that, but we're very happy that Rhode Island is now on that list of saying, kick rocks, go do your illegal things elsewhere.
And that's the other thing that we've been pointing out since COVID. I mean, we coined claim sharks. The VFW coined claim sharks in the VFW magazine in 2021. We wrote a whole article about it because when we were working together in National Veterans Service, this was a scourge that was emerging. We could see the ads. We could see the targeted ads. We were starting to feel, I hate to say pressure from our clients, but that's the wrong thing. There were clients who were contacting us like, you're not getting me enough. You're not getting me enough.
Right.
We're getting you what you're entitled to under the law.
Right.
That's what we're legally obligated to do. If we commit veteran fraud or veteran benefits fraud, we'll have our accreditation pulled. We can go to jail. We can pay fines. These companies can't. In Puerto Rico, that indictment that came down for the claim shark, the VA employee, and the veterans that filed fraudulent claims, I will hedge this bet that claim shark walks.
Yeah.
Because the veteran was the one that submitted the fraudulent claim. If only someone had been speaking up about this.
I know. How many
if
times?
only Congress would act about where the bad behavior is actually happening.
Yeah.
We've warned veterans since then, if not even before, even before you became the director, before you became a deputy.
Oh, yeah.
It's existed in one form or another. I can remember being on base doing pre-discharge claims and somebody telling me about somebody at Burger King charging people $50. I was like, I can go down there and teach you how to write your first name, last name, first and your middle initial. We've been in the government for a while. We can do that, right? And then COVID just made it a cottage industry, and somebody figured out a way to really exploit it and make it a business model, much to the detriment of our fellow veterans. And it's human nature to chase money, right?
Yeah.
I think it's normal. So we will continue. I know we will continue. And there are a number of other lawsuits that are occurring. So kudos to the National Legislative Service for what they've done. And then, Grassroots, it really shows the power of the VFW.
Yeah, right.
It shows people, this is what we do. And I'll go back to the old statement. It's not the $2 beers in the smoky bar room, because Matt McCauley was out there pounding the pavement in Rhode Island.
That's right.
Along with other people, other members of the organization, to make sure that this bill passed. Not just there. Maine, New Jersey, first in the nation, Delaware, I believe, Colorado, other states. And that's what we do.
Right.
Yep. Wow. Really good. So to that, you were yesterday a part of a deposition with regards to a claim shark lawsuit.
Yes.
Correct? You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Briefly, because I don't know what I can say.
That's right.
And I say that because they did cull a number of exhibits that had my name on them, which was fine. And it had Pat's name on there, too. I got to burst a bubble a couple times when I said that Pat no longer worked there. Strike that. I didn't say that. But one of the bad actors, I won't name them,
sure,
is suing the Attorney General in Maine based on their claim shark bill. And we were asked to provide a expert witness on behalf of the Attorney General to support the Attorney General in defending the law and why it should be passed. So I spent 7 hours yesterday in a deposition on Zoom, much like we're doing right now. It was a lot of fun, answered a lot of questions. And then at some point, we'll likely have to serve at whatever trial and then whatever judgment comes of it.
Wow.
So honor to
have done that.
Yeah, it is. It is. To have the organization recognized as, a subject matter expert, a leader in the industry, to go ahead and defend the position of the Attorney General of the state of Maine.
Oh, that's fantastic. And a little bit of Maine justice. A little bit of Maine justice.
I went home with a coon cat.
Yeah.
Your parting gift is a Maine coon cat. He didn't shut up all night.
Well, Ryan, where are we?
Wow. I think, we've hit bad policy and we've hit fraud, and and sharks. I mean, before we go around to the good of the order, any final thoughts on the Washington Post story and where we are with veterans benefits?
Well, I think the question should be to any veteran out there listening, like, why? Why is the Washington Post, right? Mm-hmm. They've done this twice now. Yeah. Why?
Versus their editorial board, yeah.
Why?
And they say, oh, that's not us.
Why are they so interested in reducing or cutting or eliminating veterans benefits? Why is that? Same thing with The Economist. Why is that? Why are you guys not looking at the unbelievable amount of fraud that goes into these defense contractors that have, they have these programs, they have these program management executives or whatever, and they put tons of money into R&D for a project that never gets off the ground. Millions, billions upon dollars on things that
the alternate engine for the F-35,
and then okay,
$10,000 toilet.
Where did all that money go? That's taxpayer dollars too. Why are you guys not looking at that? Why are you not going into these companies like we just talked about that are making hand over fist for veterans, which, by the way, that's taxpayer dollars, and then they take that money, turn around, make commercials, lobby Congress, and even sponsor, like, hey, congressional flag football games. Let's do that.
They're lobbying Congress to change a law that they say they're not breaking.
That's right. So why Washington Post and Economist, are you guys not looking into that? All right, because unless I remember, I think it was Pat who quoted A Few Good Men, like, why don't you pick up a weapon and stand a post, right? he used that.
Nathaniel Jessup, great monologue speech in film history. I think it really comes down to money if you look at it, right? Like, so in the article, they talked about, 1 in 60 veterans, their families make more than $250,000 a year. That, by the way, $250,000 a year. That's not me. I wish it was.
It's not me.
But, that's not millionaire territory. It's a $250,000. But
if we're doing math,
we don't have
is it straight math or VA math?
Donation base. We're not a big voting bloc. We're not nearly as powerful as some of these other folks you mentioned, Rob, right? Not only the defense contractors, but as I said, Jeff Bezos. It's really easy to go after people that don't have this kind of influence and power. We're voters, but that's really all we are. We can't donate money because, as they mentioned, we're not even quarter millionaires, right? We're not nearly as wealthy and prominent as some of the other folks that frankly do deserve a magnifying glass looking into some of their behaviors, some of their just the culture around some of this stuff. It's easy to pick shots at folks that really can't, swing that kind of momentum, that kind of movement, the way that veterans can. We get what we've earned, and we're very grateful to people that support us and, grant us those care and benefits. But, we're doing this basically, the country is honoring our contract. We want them to hold to it. But, these are easy to take shots at because we're not nearly as powerful as an arm as your Jeff Bezos is, or your Raytheons or Boeings or Northrop Grummans, all those folks. They can move mountains here in Washington, D.C. We can't.
Yeah.
So it's easy to take shots because they're lazy.
You brought up a couple of points there that I think are even a bit more insidious. You talked about when you were talking about comparing sleep apnea and a lost limb. Well, you're focused on sleep apnea is too high. Shouldn't you be focused on the lost limb is too low? One of the things that the tone that I took away from this article is really pitting Americans against the veteran community, which is what happens in 1933. It's what happened in
hold on, Ryan. I think this is elitist against the American veterans.
No.
I don't see here's the average American complaining that veterans are getting too much. It's your Washington Post, your Economist, those folks that are trying to manufacture this fight.
So but here's the thing. I think they're trying to make a case to the American public.
That's why,
because when they're talking about income thresholds, when they're talking about, okay, $250,000, $150,000, the average American who didn't serve is looking at that and saying, wow, they're making how much? And then they're getting money on top of that. When they talk about access to healthcare or free healthcare or nearly free healthcare or subsidized healthcare, the average American who's having who's having to buy their healthcare on the economy is looking at that saying, wait, they get healthcare, they get access to mortgages, they get access to education. Why don't I get that? Well, that recruiting office is open to everybody.
That's
you
right.
can volunteer to serve too. Yeah. But it read to me as you're making a case to Americans who are struggling to buy groceries, keep the lights on, things like that. It's like, hey, look over here at this group. They get benefits and programs and services. You should be mad at them for getting those programs and benefits and services. Mm-hmm. Now, I will agree with you, Pat, that it's the elitists trying to drive that message and drive that wedge. But again, that's what they did in the 1930s.
Yep.
It's what they did in the 1950s. It's what they're trying to do today.
Yep, absolutely. And, hey, everyone, then if that's the case and you don't think it's fair, then why don't you just vote for us to have a draft again? And then that way, the next war that comes around, it's fair and balanced across the whole spectrum of all classes, which we know, and you can talk to any Vietnam War vet, they'll tell you how fair that was during the draft.
Hey, you just get deferments if you go to Duke.
Yeah. You go to some college or you have some condition.
Yeah,
what's
can't go. Mr. Whitlock there.
Yeah.
I wonder if he played lacrosse.
Very interesting how that all is.
Well, it's interesting, too, that it's the Washington Post, and they don't remember Washington's quote about taking care of veterans after they serve, right? They should be ashamed, really.
Mm-hmm.
That would involve investigation, and, they're just not good at their job.
Well, okay, so they got us all fired up, and if you're out there and you're a veteran, or if you're a family member, you care about those that are serving. Maybe you have a son or daughter that's serving right now, a brother or sister, cousin, family, we all do, right? I mean, we all have people that have served or are serving right now or will serve in the near future. This stuff should make you upset because we volunteer to give up everything, our futures, our bodies, everything to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that means us going over into war zones and doing what needs to be done to protect our freedoms here at home. And you don't want to give us what the other side of the contract promises, which is care and benefits. Shame on you.
Yeah,
so
not forget about the ones who didn't come back either.
Exactly right.
And
the Gold Star family members who are sitting back here. So I tell you what, it got me fired up, got you all fired up. Pat, we got him on off the top rope. Da, 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 da. I was thinking about maybe doing some John Cena music or something, one Marine to another. I don't know. Was he really a Marine? I don't know.
He played one.
He played one and stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, I guess, too. But so here we are. We are at the good of the order. And let's just go around the room. Pat, we'll start with you out in the hinterlands. Would you have anything for the good of the order?
I really don't. Nothing for the folks around the country, but it is just great to see you all. I do miss a lot of this, not all, but it's fun to get back and kind of chop it up with you guys. It has also been relieving to not have to listen to this kind of drivel right from the Washington Post on an everyday basis anymore. But every now and then it is kind of fun to sit here with you guys, chat about things we all care about, and remind the folks, the other VFW members from around the country that you are all sitting here working in Washington D.C. every single day for all of us, making sure that these kind of foolish ideas are stamped out in their infancy. So I'm very happy to be here with you all, chatting, and maybe we'll run into you sooner rather than you think.
Yeah. Like that. Thanks, Pat. All right. Random. Go to Mike. What do you got, Mike? What do you have for the good of the order?
Hey, thank you for taking the time. Again, thanks to the team for getting everybody fired up, getting Pat fired up after a big Patriots win on Sunday. You can't beat that.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Just carry that energy and emotion over.
On a Patriots victory Monday.
Yeah.
Making, the Grassroots members of VFW aware of this article that others might not be, and the drivel that it just puts out there, and what we need to do to make sure that the record was set straight. It's been a long week, so with that, I will yield back my time.
Okay, we're yielding back the time. An article larded with graphs. I love that. I took that from the 1956 article, larded with graphs. Kristina, what do you have for the good of the order?
Well, just a bit of a shout out to veterans who are working in the federal government right now. The country's experiencing a government shutdown. My husband is one of those veterans who is not getting paid right now, but has to go to work. So just, for our members to know that we are concerned, we are tracking this issue. We are hopeful that things will get back on track. But this is affecting a lot of people. And so, just hoping that veterans are reaching out if they need help, if they need anything to reach out to us. But it can be a really destabilizing time when the government's shut down and you're not sure what's happening with your job. And so just want to give a shout out to our veterans who are experiencing that right now. Yeah,
I specifically think about a lot of my fellow service members who are in the public affairs job career field, and a lot of them got laid off. One guy who, we served in Korea together, and the guy's an Emmy Award winning, multiple awards, like 150 awards for the work that he's done with Voice of America. And so he unceremoniously just ended his career, unfortunately, because that's just the way it goes. So, Kane, if you're out there listening, man, hats off to you. You had a great career, but I think there's great things ahead for you. But we'll continue the fight to just push for leadership on Capitol Hill. Let's get the government back going. Let's get people paid, especially our service members and those that are in law enforcement, right? Like, I remember when that happened when I was in uniform and having to explain that to my kids, or having to talk to bills and say, hey, can you guys work with me? I'm not going to be able to pay. Craziness. Right. So come on, government, let's go. Let's get back on track.
I know the House is adjourned right now, but is there any momentum to get a Pay the Coast Guard Act done? I mean, I know they can't get that done until they actually show back up next week, but is that the Coast Guard
what do you think,
taken care of, or we kind of SOL once again?
Yeah, joined a letter with Blue Star families calling for all of the above, but Pat, you know how it goes. Like you said, when you don't miss it, the things you don't miss, the inaction.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they just adjourned, and don't worry, the Coast Guard not only is doing their job, a very important job, which was, I learned how critical their job is during the last shutdown. They're too often overlooked, but they're going without paychecks, and the House doesn't come back till the 18th. They're going to miss a second paycheck. Families, that hurts them, man. That sucks.
Yeah, that's awful. Yeah. Leadership, guys. You need leadership to be able to make decisions over there, get people paid. Ryan, what do you have for the good of the order?
All right. So first, Kristina, I'm grateful you brought up the shutdown for the good of the order. I think it's a good topic that, because every day there's breaking news. We needed to talk about the Washington Post's stupidity. But in the context of the shutdown, I do want to give a shout out to Mike and the team from VFW National Veterans Service and our accredited reps from around the country and around the world. A little background, a number of years ago, I want to say in 2015, did a strategic plan to talk about the future of veterans benefits assistance with the VFW. And part of that strategic plan, the future vision, was to provide claims assistance from any reliable internet connection. From that point forward, National Veterans Service, the National Veterans Service Advisory Committee, and the VFW leadership has all moved forward deliberately to fulfill that strategic objective. And we've made a lot of progress along the way. In 2019, we instituted policies that made sure that our accredited advocates had remote access to VA systems and had the equipment that they needed to work outside of the VA regional office, break the tether from VA facilities. During COVID-19, that allowed the team to move to a remote capacity instantly. Some of our claims representatives on military installations, when Transition Assistance Program briefers were furloughed, they took up the mantle, like Cindy Noel when she was at Camp Lejeune prior to becoming our program manager. fast forward to this government shutdown, when we learned that our accredited reps would be restricted from accessing office spaces in VA facilities, we were able to pivot instantly and basically put out a message that said, here's how you get a hold of your reps. Here's their contact information. And not only that, we trained our call center in Kansas City to be accredited and to be able to provide referral and basic intake. And so we're able to immediately put up a message that just because the government isn't working doesn't mean the VFW is not. We're still here to help. Mike, I'm really proud of your team and the entire VFW, our cadre of more than 2,000 accredited reps around the country and around the world, who by design were able to pivot from in-person claims assistance to doing whatever is necessary for however long this shutdown goes.
Thank you. They're a good group, and they're ready to go back to work and keep working.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that it? That you're good at the order, Ryan, or was there more you want to say to that?
That's all I had to say. If you need claims assistance, again, visit vfw.org. You'll see the banner up there on the vfw.org/NVS, the NVS landing page. You'll find how to find an accredited representative. And there's a message there. If you can't get a hold of them directly, there's the 800 number.
The VFW 800 number.
Yes.
Yeah.
1-833 vets. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, come on, guys.
We'll put it in the lower third.
Yeah, we'll put it in there.
Write that. Add the number in the crayon.
I'll voice it over. 1-800. We like that.
There's 1-833 VFW vets.
And now a special message.
1-833 VFW vets. 1-833 VFW vets.
There you go. All right. Thank you for
The
that.
other one, no problem.
Yeah. So if you go to the top, I mean, there's all kinds of different resources. People, if you go to the VFW.org site, you can go there and find out about claims assistance. You can find out about how you can get involved with Action Corps. That's an important thing to get involved there and follow all the legislation that we're talking about and get the latest alerts. If you want to learn how to join the VFW or even the VFW Auxiliary, you can find all the links there at vfw.org.
And on that website is the VFW store where you can get your handy dandy t-shirt.
That's right. The VFW store. Here's the catalog right here. And you can get all these great items to include go in the store. And I don't think the Honor the Contract is in the actual printed catalog, but you can get this t-shirt right there.
It's a limited run.
Right. It was a limited run. Yeah. We may have other ones. We'll see what happens.
Where can you get the t-shirt, Rob?
What was that?
Where can you get the t-shirt?
At vfwstore.org. So there you go. Yeah, that's me doing my best broadcaster thing. So what do I have for the good of the order? Well, I think it's important for us to talk about that this physical space that we're in right now, we're going to be moving out of it. So we've talked about it. You've seen me over all this time with the podcast where I'm sweating like crazy. And that's because this is a 65-year-old building and the HVAC system
is 90 years old?
67 years old somehow.
It's 126 years old.
We bought it used. It was surplus federal property.
They went to DRMO and
it fell off a truck. Maybe it's a hazardous waste truck. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think not service connected.
Look, those asbestos pipes are durable. Okay.
So anyway, we're going to be moving out of this space. If you just listen to us on the podcast, it's going to sound pretty much exactly the same because the technology and the mic's the same. But the look, if you walk on YouTube, we'll have our backdrop and we'll do the best we can to replicate what we have in here. But we are moving into a temporary space for, I don't know, we'll see how long it takes.
The duration of the project.
Yeah, that's perfect for the duration of the project. But we will continue and bringing you more guests and other folks. So, hey, it's been a great podcast. I'm really happy that we were able to get on and act quickly and get this one out. I mean, I know that even our Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, she's fired up about this, and she, at a time of our choosing, the Washington Post will hear from us officially. So very happy that we are all on board and getting after this. So with that, thanks everyone for doing this. I know we're going to be moving here pretty soon. In fact, I'm probably going to be breaking down the studio as soon as we walk out this afternoon.
Strike
gotta
the
get
set.
going.
Strike the set.
Strike it. Anyway,
thanks, Pat. Good to see you.
Pat, thanks again. Really great to have you on.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks, guys.
All right, awesome. And for all those that are watching and listening, we thank you for watching the VFW podcast, still serving the VFW podcast, which you can catch us every other week as best we can. And you can like, subscribe, and follow us on all social media platforms and the VFW's YouTube channel. So you can go there, and all streaming platforms as well. Until then, this is Rob Couture saying when it comes to the VFW, we are still serving. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Still Serving, the VFW podcast. To get the latest news and information from the veterans of foreign wars, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to us on social media at VFW HQ, on Facebook at VFW Fans, or visit our website at vfw.org.